My name is Emma Carter. And I'm 34 years old. I work in operations for a mid-sized logistics company. It's not glamorous, but I like it that way. Trucks leave warehouses on time. Numbers either make sense or they don't. Problems have solutions. My fiancé, Daniel Mitchell, was the exact opposite. He owned a corporate training business and spent half his life in airports and hotel conference rooms, teaching managers how to become better leaders. He could walk into a room full of strangers and leave with 10 new friends. 3 years ago, my boss signed me up for one of his weekend retreats. I didn't want to go. I expected cheesy team-building exercises and motivational slogans taped to the walls. Instead, I met Daniel. On the first morning, everyone was standing in a circle introducing themselves, while I stayed near the coffee table. He looked at me and smiled. "You look like you're here under protest." The room laughed. I laughed too. That was the beginning. 2 weeks later, we had dinner. 6 months later, we were taking weekend trips together. A year and a half later, he said yes when I proposed during a sunset dinner in Charleston. I remember the tears in his eyes. I remember thinking I'd finally found my person. We planned a small December wedding. Nothing extravagant. Just family and close friends. Everything felt steady. Until our engagement party. We rented a rooftop event space downtown. About 40 guests. My parents flew in from Ohio. His parents drove from North Carolina. Co-workers. College friends. Music played softly in the corner, while people carried little plates of appetizers. About 30 minutes into the party, Daniel walked over carrying 2 drinks. He looked completely relaxed. "Hey," he said casually. "I invited Sophia. She just texted. She's on her way." I blinked. "Sophia. My ex." He said it like he was telling me the weather. "She's in town for work." I thought it'd be nice for everyone to catch up. I looked around the room. Our parent, my coworkers, our friends. I wasn't going to make a scene, so I simply nodded. 20 minutes later, she arrived. Tall, elegant, dark hair. The kind of woman who looked comfortable everywhere. Daniel crossed the room the moment he saw her. He hugged her. Not for long, but long enough. "This is Emma," he said when they reached me. "My fiancé." Sophia smiled and shook my hand. "Congratulations." She sounded sincere. Maybe that's why it bothered me. Later, someone tapped a fork against a glass. Speech time. A few people went first. My mother told an embarrassing story about me falling out of a tree when I was 12. Daniel's brother joked that he'd finally found someone organized enough to keep Daniel's life together. Everyone laughed. Then Sophia stood. She lifted her wine glass and looked around the room. "Some connections never really disappear," she said. The room became strangely quiet. She turned toward Daniel. "History matters. And no matter where life takes us, there will always be people who care about you." I felt it immediately. The shift in the room. People looking at me and then quickly looking away. Sophia continued for another minute before raising her glass. "Go, Daniel." And Emma. My name sounded like an afterthought. Everyone applauded. Daniel smiled. Then he hugged her. A quick hug. But there was something familiar about the way they looked at each other. Something unfinished. My best friend, Lauren, leaned toward me. That was weird. "Right. Yeah," I said quietly. The rest of the evening continued normally. Photos, cake, conversation. I smiled for every picture. I thanked every guest. I didn't let anything show. But after most people had left, I found Daniel by the dessert table, packing leftovers. "That toast?" I said softly. He looked up. "What about it?" It didn't sound like a friend giving a speech. He sighed. "Emma, don't start." "I'm not starting anything. She's just an old friend." I held his gaze. "No. She's someone who still thinks she has a place in your life." He rolled his eyes. "You're reading too much into this." I nodded slowly. Then I said the words that changed everything. "If she's going to stay in your life like this, then decide." He frowned. "Decide what? Whether you're building a future with me or keeping one foot in the past." His face tightened. "Emma, no yelling. No drama." I looked at him calmly. "Just decide." He stared at me. I took a breath. If Sophia is going to be part of this relationship, then I won't be. Silence. He looked genuinely shocked. I picked up my coat. Think about it, I said. Then, I walked out into the cold night. A few minutes later, I sent him a single text. Noon tomorrow. He read it immediately, but he never replied. I brushed my teeth, set my alarm, and slept peacefully. Because it wasn't a threat. It was a standard. The pattern of lies. Daniel didn't text me that night. No apology. No anger. No explanation. Just silence. At exactly noon the next day, my phone finally buzzed. You're making too much out of this. Sophia's just a friend. Let's talk later. I stared at the message for several seconds. Then I turned my phone over and went back to work. I had a routing update due by 3 o'clock. And numbers were easier than emotions. But the words stayed with me. Just a friend. I had no problem with friends. I had a problem with patterns. 2 days later, Daniel and I had a scheduled call with our wedding vendors. The venue coordinator and florist joined a Zoom meeting to discuss final details. Everything started normally. Chair layouts, table arrangement, flower colors. Then Daniel suddenly muted himself. He picked up his phone and turned slightly away from the camera. At first, I thought it would be 10 seconds. Instead, it lasted almost 2 minutes. When he returned, he smiled, like nothing had happened. But something caught my eye. Behind him sat a framed photo on a bookshelf. The glass reflected his phone screen. A single letter appeared in bright white S. Maybe it could have been anyone. But I already knew. I didn't say anything. Not yet. That evening, I logged into our phone account. I paid for his line through my employee discount. I wasn't reading messages, just call logs. 3 late-night calls. All with the same number. 3 nights in 1 week. Each one between 1:30 and 2 in the morning. 20 to 30 minutes long. I stared at the screen. People don't accidentally have midnight conversations 3 nights in a row. Friday morning. Another piece fell into place. A friend named Julia texted me. Saw Daniel last night at that networking event. Thought you were there too. I frowned. I hadn't even known about the event. A second message arrived. He spent most of the night talking to some woman. Tall brunette. Nice dress. Then she sent a picture. Not intentionally. Just a crowd photo she'd posted online. Near the edge of the frame stood Daniel. Across from him, Sophia. They were leaning toward each other, smiling, looking entirely comfortable. I checked the timestamp. Tuesday. The same night, Daniel had told me he was staying home to prepare for an early client presentation. 3 points. 1 line. I opened a sticky note and wrote, transparency. Priority. Boundaries. Months earlier, we'd had a conversation about old relationships. My ex-boyfriend had texted me out of nowhere. I immediately showed Daniel. I didn't answer until he read the message himself. He'd smiled and said, I appreciate honesty. Apparently, honesty only mattered when it was convenient. Saturday morning. I texted him, come by my apartment tomorrow. We need to talk. He replied almost immediately. What's going on? I didn't answer for an hour. When I finally did, I wrote, bring your calendar. The next morning, he arrived right on time. Hair slightly messy. Laptop bag over one shoulder. You've been acting strange, he said as he walked inside. We'll see. I had coffee waiting there for him. My laptop sat open on the kitchen table. The sticky note rested beside it. He sat down. Okay, he said. What's this about? I turned my laptop toward him. 3 things. He looked confused. Transparency. Priority. Boundaries. He sighed. Oh, God. This is about Sophia. Yes. Emma. I held up my hand. Tuesday. You muted yourself during our vendor meeting to take a call. He blinked. You checked on me. I noticed. I continued. 3 late-night calls in 1 week. Then, a networking event with Sophia, while telling me you were home working. His expression changed. Not angry, cornered. She's going through a difficult time. He said. That's your explanation. She's having a rough breakup. Then help her. He looked relieved. Then I added, after you tell her you're engaged? Silence. I stared at him. Did you tell her? He looked away. Daniel. He rubbed his forehead. It never came up. I almost laughed. You're talking to her every day. Meeting her in person. Staying on the phone after midnight. And your engagement never came up. It's not like that. It feels exactly like that. He folded his arms. You're acting jealous. No. I said quietly. I'm paying attention. He exhaled sharply. You're trying to control who I'm friends with. I shook my head. No. I'm controlling what I'll participate in. The room became very quiet. Outside. Someone walked a dog past my building. I could hear it barking. Finally. He spoke. So what, you want me to cut her out of my life? I want you to decide what kind of life you're building. His jaw tightened. I've known her for years. And you're supposed to marry me? He looked genuinely frustrated. There doesn't have to be a competition. There already is. His eyes widened. I continued. You just don't want to admit it. He stared at me for several seconds. Then he closed his laptop. So, what now? I looked at him calmly. If I'm your future, then your ex doesn't get the emotional space of a current partner. That's ridiculous. No. It's a boundary. You'd end an engagement over a few phone calls. I met his eyes. I'd end it because I gave you a chance to make me your priority. And you couldn't do it. The words hit him. I could see it. For the first time. He looked afraid. But only for a second. Then his expression hardened. I'm not choosing between people. I nodded slowly. Then you already made your choice. He stood up. This is insane. No. I said softly. This is clarity. He grabbed his bag. You'll regret this. I remained seated. No. I replied. I regret begging for things that should come naturally. His hand froze on the doorknob. Then I said one last thing. You're not losing me because of Sophia. He looked back. You're losing me because you never protected us from her. Silence. Then he walked out. The door closed harder than necessary. I sat there alone for a long time. Then I picked up my coffee. It had gone cold. Somehow, that felt appropriate. Monday morning. I arrived at work early, opened my laptop, and started canceling the wedding. No tears. No dramatic speeches. Just phone calls. The venue. The florist. The photographer. On et on. The future we'd planned disappeared quietly through emails and cancellation confirmations. And with every click of my mouse, I felt lighter, because deep down, I already knew something Daniel didn't. If someone truly wants a future with you, they never make you compete with the past. The engagement collapses. I spent the rest of Monday canceling my future. The venue coordinator sounded disappointed. You'll lose the deposit, she said gently. I understand. The florist refunded everything. The photographer did the same. Every confirmation email went into a folder on my desktop labeled Wedding. I saved screenshots, downloaded receipts, documented everything. That's who I was. When something ended, I preferred clean lines. No loose ends. During my lunch break, I went to the bank. Daniel and I had opened a small joint account for wedding expenses months earlier. Nothing complicated. We each transferred money into it every month to cover deposits and final payments. I withdrew only what I'd contributed, not $1 more. The teller printed the balance and handed me a receipt. I scanned it as soon as I got back to the office. Paper trail complete. Then I sent Daniel an email. Subject: next steps. I've canceled the wedding vendors and withdrawn my contribution from our account. If you would like to discuss returning the ring or handling any remaining details, we can arrange a public meeting. No blame, no accusation, just facts. An hour later, my manager, Kelly, called. Everything okay? She asked carefully. Why wouldn't it be? She hesitated. Daniel contacted one of our clients this morning. He said, you might be under a lot of stress. I closed my eyes. Of course he had. My personal life won't affect my work. I figured, she said. I just wanted to check. I looked at my computer screen. The routing update I'd been leading was ahead of schedule. I'm fine. After I hung up, I sat quietly for a few seconds. He hadn't chosen me, But somehow he still felt entitled to manage my narrative. That bothered me more than the late-night calls. Wednesday morning. I received an email from an unfamiliar address. From Sophia Green. Subject coffee. I read it twice. Emma. I think there may have been some misunderstandings. Daniel mentioned the engagement ending. And I'm confused. I'd appreciate a quick conversation, if you're willing. I stared at the screen. Then I replied, 10-minute. Public place. Friday. She answered almost immediately. Thank you. Friday arrived, cold and windy. I chose a coffee shop downtown with large windows and constant foot traffic. No chance for drama. Sophia was already there. She stood when she saw me. Emma. I nodded. Visat? For a few seconds. Neither of us spoke. Then she sighed. I didn't know. I frowned. About what? The engagement. I simply stared at her. She looked uncomfortable. I knew he was seeing someone seriously. But I didn't know he was engaged until after everything exploded. I felt my pulse slow. You're saying he never told you? She shook her head. No. The noise inside the cafe seemed to fade. I thought, she said carefully, I thought maybe you two had already broken up. I looked at her, really looked at her. She seemed tired, embarrassed, confused, not smug, not victorious. She looked like someone who had been lied to. I folded my hands together. He never mentioned proposing. No. The wedding. No. The date. No. She stared at her coffee. He talked about you. She admitted quietly. But he always made it sound complicated. Like you two were trying to figure things out. I sat back in my chair. Suddenly, the pieces fit together. Separate stories. Parallel conversations. Different versions of reality. Daniel hadn't simply failed to set boundaries. He had been maintaining two entirely different narratives. Sophia looked up. I'm not trying to interfere, she said. I just thought you deserved to know. I nodded slowly. I appreciate the honesty. She swallowed. Are you two really over? I considered the question. Then I answered honestly. That depends on him. She looked surprised. You still love him. I smiled sadly. Love and trust aren't the same thing. She didn't know what to say to that. Neither did I. After exactly 10 minutes, I stood. I don't blame you. She looked relieved. I'm sorry, she whispered. I nodded once. Then I walked out. The following week, things became strange. Messages started arriving. Co-workers asking if I was okay. Friends checking in. Then one vendor emailed me. Daniel mentioned, there may have been delays on your side. Is the wedding still canceled? I stared at the message. Then another one arrived. And another. He was talking. Trying to explain. Trying to rewrite. I sent one short email to my entire team. Daniel and I have ended our engagement. This is a personal matter, and doesn't involve work. Please direct any questions to me, and don't pass messages between us. Pour sentence. That was enough. My coworker Jake brought me a coffee later that afternoon. He set it on my desk. Good boundaries. That was all he said. The next few weeks were quiet. I went to work, went to the gym, cooked dinner, slept through the night. No more checking my phone at 2 a.m. No more wondering. Then, one evening, Daniel finally texted. We need to talk. I ignored it. A second message arrived. At least hear me out. Nothing. 3 days later. Please. Closure. 10-minute. I waited until the next morning before replying. Public place. He immediately sent back the name of a cafe. Sunday. 2 o'clock. I arrived exactly on time. Daniel was already there. He looked exhausted. Dark circles under his eyes. He stood when he saw me. Thank you for coming. 10-minute. I said. We sat down. For a long moment, he simply stared at his coffee. Finally, he spoke. I hate how this ended. We talked. I said quietly. No. We argued. I folded my hands. You think I was hiding things. I looked at him. You were. He flinched. It wasn't like that. You didn't tell her we were engaged? He looked away. That wasn't intentional. I almost laughed. That's worse. Silence. After a while, he said softly, I made mistakes. I nodded. So did I. He looked up. I assumed we wanted the same future. His eyes filled with something painful. Emma. I shook my head. You had every opportunity to protect what we had. Outside the cafe, traffic moved slowly. People walked by carrying shopping bags. Life continued. Finally, he asked, "So that's it?" I nodded. "That's it." I stood. "Take care of yourself." Daniel. He remained seated, watching me leave. Weeks passed. No calls, no messages, no surprises. Then, one afternoon, a cream-colored envelope appeared in my mailbox. I recognized the handwriting immediately. I opened it. Inside was a wedding invitation. Daniel Mitchell and Sophia Green request the honor of your presence. I stopped reading. The wedding date was December 18th, the exact day that was supposed to be our wedding. A handwritten note slipped out. Emma. I know this may seem strange, but I finally realized what matters. I wish you nothing but happiness. I read it twice. Then I placed the invitation inside the folder, labeled wedding, and closed the drawer. I thought that was the end. I was wrong, because on the night Daniel was supposed to marry Sophia, my phone suddenly buzzed. Unknown number, a message appeared. It should have been you. Please come. Room 1542. Blessa Hotel. 30 seconds later, another message arrived. I walked out before the vows. I need to see you. I stared at the screen, and for the first time in months, my heart skipped. You made your choice. I stared at the message for a long time. It should have been you. 3 months earlier. Those words would have shattered me. Now they just made me tired. Then another message appeared. Please. 10 minute. That's all I'm asking. 10 minute. Funny. That had become our unit of closure. I stood from my desk and walked to the window of my apartment. The city glowed with Christmas lights. Somewhere across town, a wedding reception was supposed to be happening. Instead, a groom had walked away. I opened my dresser drawer. Inside was a small jewelry box. The engagement ring sat exactly where I'd left it. I picked it up, not because I wanted him back, because I wanted this finished. Completely. An hour later, I walked into the Plaza Hotel. The lobby was decorated for Christmas. A giant tree stood in the center. Couples were taking photos. Children ran around the fountain. The entire place looked like the setting of a romantic movie. I stepped into the elevator. 15th floor. Room 1542. I knocked once. The door opened almost immediately. Daniel looked terrible. His hair was messy. His eyes were red. He changed out of his wedding suit and into a white hotel robe. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then he whispered, "You came." I stepped inside, but stayed near the door. He closed it softly. "I couldn't do it," he said. I said nothing. I got to the aisle, and suddenly, he swallowed hard. "I kept thinking about you." Silence. I made a mistake. "Emma." His voice cracked. "It was supposed to be you." I looked at him calmly. He took a step closer. "I know I ruined everything. I know I hurt you. But we can fix it." I still didn't speak. Tears filled his eyes. I finally understand what matters. There it was. The speech. The grand realization. The dramatic ending he thought would rewrite the story. I slowly reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the ring box. He stared at it. Hope flashed across his face. Then, I opened the box. The diamonds sparkled under the hotel lights. I held it out. "I'm returning this." The hope vanished. "Emma, you don't get to come back because your other choice didn't feel right." He looked like I'd slapped him. "No, that's not, it is." I took a slow breath. For months, I asked for honesty. He lowered his head. "I asked to be your priority." He said nothing. "I asked you to protect what we were building." Tears slipped down his cheeks. "I know." I looked at him sadly. "No. Daniel, I don't think you do." He looked up again. "I love you." I smiled. The saddest part was that I believed him. He probably did love me. Just not enough to choose me when it mattered. Love isn't the issue. He stared at me. "Then what is?" I closed the ring box. "Commitment." Silence. "You didn't choose me." His breathing became shaky. "You kept me close while deciding whether you wanted someone else." He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. You wanted both doors open. I placed the ring box on the dresser. And now that one closed? You're knocking on mine. Tears were streaming down his face now. Please. I shook my head. You don't miss me. His expression broke. You miss certainty. Another silence filled the room. Outside the window, fireworks suddenly exploded in the distance. Somebody else's celebration. Somebody else's beginning. Daniel's shoulders began to shake. I was an idiot. Yes. I ruined everything. Yes. I'd do anything to fix it. I looked at him for a long moment. Then I said quietly, some things aren't meant to be fixed. His eyes closed. I stepped toward the door. He looked panicked. Please don't leave. I stopped. Then I turned back toward him. I came tonight for one reason. He waited. So one day, you can't rewrite this. He frowned. I don't want you telling people I never gave you closure. A tear slid down his cheek. This is your closure. I opened the door. His voice cracked behind me. So that's it. I looked at him one last time. You made your choice. I stepped into the hallway. Now I'm making mine. Then I closed the door. I never looked back. 3 months later, spring arrived. The city felt different. Lighter. So did I. I accepted a promotion at work. More responsibility. My own team. More travel. I even started mentoring a new employee named Sam, who reminded me of myself years ago. Life became wonderfully ordinary. I worked. I went to the gym. I cooked real meals again. I slept through the night. No more anxiety. No more waiting for explanations. Then, in March, I met someone. Nathan Reed. We met through mutual friends. He worked in marketing. Our first coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into long walks. Long walks turned into something comfortable. Something easy. He never made me question where I stood. One evening, my best friend, Lauren, asked, how's it going with Nathan? I smiled. It feels normal. She grinned. Normal is underrated. She was right. A few months later, I heard through mutual friends that Daniel had moved to Chicago. New apartment. New job. Fresh start. Nobody mentioned Sophia. I didn't ask. Some stories no longer belong to you. One Sunday evening, I was walking downtown to meet Nathan for dinner when I saw a man from behind who looked exactly like Daniel. For half a second, my chest tightened. Then he turned. A stranger. And just like that, nothing. No pain. No anger. No regret. Just another person passing by. At the restaurant. Nathan waved when he saw me. Hey. I smiled and sat down. We ordered pasta and talked about our week. Halfway through dinner, my phone buzzed. A message from Lauren. Hiking next Saturday. I smiled and typed back. Absolutely. Nathan raised an eyebrow. Plans already. Always. He laughed. After dinner, we walked under the streetlights. The night was warm. Peaceful. When I got home, I opened a drawer looking for an old tax document. Inside sat a manila folder, labeled Wedding. I looked at it for a moment. Then I slid it farther to the back. Not hidden. Not displayed. Just stored. Because history belongs in a drawer. Not in your living room. And certainly not in your future.